Here's what video podcast studios don't want you to know. Traditional studio hire creates a production debt by generating unedited footage that can take weeks to prep for publication. The Creative Kin Zero post-production system eliminates this bottleneck by creating a real-time edit during the recording session that maximizes asset velocity and delivers a ready-to-publish video in under 24 hours. Today, I'm going to talk you through why this matters to your brand and why I don't want you to hire the Creative Kin Studio. I love the Creative Kin Studio. This place has been painstakingly designed, curated, and crafted to deliver video content that, in my opinion, comfortably surpasses any other content studio in London. I really mean that. I'll go one-to-one with any other studio all day long. But here's the thing. I don't want you to hire our studio because studio hire creates as many problems as it solves. What I'm talking about here is asset velocity, the time it takes to get a result from your content. Businesses need to record, edit, and publish fast. But for most, it's not unusual to take 8 weeks or more to get their recorded video off their hard drives and ready to upload. And this is the secret that most podcast and content studios don't want you to know. Studio hire does not make your life easier. Now, okay, when you hire a studio, you get the cinema grade cameras and you get the premium lenses and the pro lighting and the great mics and everything else that comes with a studio hire. Or at least you should do. But wherever you record, multicam video footage creates a huge production bottleneck: editing. So what happens? All that expensively recorded video content sits on hard drives waiting to be edited. To get from record to publish takes time, energy, and money. And that's if it happens at all. That is your production debt. You spent your money on production quality, but all you really bought was a video editing to-do list. By the time you get to the end of it, you'll wish you never started. I know this because I've been there. I've experienced the video editing backlog myself, and I see it with my clients at Creative Kin. Here's a good example. One regular client who's been working with us since spring last year came in to record a 2-hour special with one of their guests. The studio hire cost alone was £230. We spent the afternoon in the studio, recorded the content. It was really engaging, sounded great, looked fantastic. Everyone's happy. The same afternoon, I transfer the files to the client. So that's 4 ISO video camera channels, 2 individual mic channels, a stereo audio mix. It's all labeled, files, ready to edit. 3 weeks later, three weeks later, I got an email from the client asking for a refile. Their editor had been unavailable and they were only now ready to get started. So yeah, we refile the assets, no problem. But then it takes another 3.5 weeks to get the content published, during which time I know that that particular client has been managing their editor remotely while dealing with a family emergency. So that's more than 6 weeks from record to publish, and at least 3 of those weeks where the asset velocity on this particular episode was basically 0. The content had been recorded, but it wasn't moving towards publication, it wasn't driving audience engagement, and it wasn't delivering any kind of return on investment at all. So my point is this: the unpredictable happens in business and in life. And if you're still paying off your production debt when you get blown off course, your content is going nowhere. That low asset velocity I talked about, it becomes no asset velocity. And the fact is that very often 6 weeks from record to publish, it's not unusual, even when everything's going smoothly. But whether you're a brand, a business, or a content creator, you just can't afford to have content you spent budget on sitting around with 0 asset velocity adding to your production debt, which is why I don't want you to hire the Creative Kin Studio. What I want you to do is invest your budget in the outcome, not the process. And that means a zero post production system that gets your content working for you immediately. Instead of paying for studio hire that burdens you with a huge post-production task list, I want you to skip over that editing bottleneck and maximize the asset velocity of your content. Here's how I look at this. If you come to me with your hard-won content budget, I want to make sure it's spent buying the outcome, not the input. Standard thinking in the creator economy is that when you're ready to raise your production values, you go into a studio. Well, so far, so uncontroversial. But Received Wisdom also says you have to accept the long and painful post-production phase to get high-quality output. It says that slogging through a lengthy editing process is a necessary evil. But I would argue that for a lot of YouTube and podcast content, post-production is just a euphemism for I'll make that decision later. The traditional workflow leaves you making creative editorial decisions weeks after the energy in the studio has evaporated. It's unnecessary, it's slow, and too often it means the decisions never get made at all. Now, I'm the first to insist that my videos look and sound fantastic. That's why I use cinema grade cameras. The images they produce are just beautiful. But I'm not making cinema. I'm making marketing collateral. And when I sit down to record, I've already made all my editorial decisions. In our As Live workflow, we feed all the camera angles and signals and audio into a live switcher. It creates a real-time edit and renders it immediately. So I go into the studio, switch my camera angles live as I record, and record that video edit as live. So when I finish, I'm ready to publish. That's the outcome I want for myself, and it's the outcome I want for my clients at Creative Kim. In a traditional shoot edit workflow, the cost of the studio is just the beginning. You gather your separate video and audio ISO tracks, transfer them, synchronize them, and only then are you ready to start building an edit. In our As Live workflow, we feed all the camera signals and our audio into a live switcher and record the output. So the moment we stop recording, we've got a ready to publish edit. And when our client gets back to their desk, there's a link waiting in their inbox to download the complete As Live edit. The finished article's right there in their hands an hour after they leave the studio. When a client walks out of the Creative King studio, instead of handing them a hard drive full of headaches, I'm giving them a simple, frictionless solution. My mission at Creative King has always been to make it easier and faster for independent brands and solo operators to achieve the standards for their content that were the norm for me during my career at the BBC as a journalist and broadcaster. And I started out with a studio, and I built the studio into an amazing resource, but it's only one part of the equation. And that's just not good enough for me. It's not good enough for me that a client can leave our studio and still have a mountain to climb before they can get their content to market. And what's more, I think is a bad business model. Why would you spend money with me if all you're buying is another problem? So from where I'm standing or sitting, As Live is a win-win. It's good for my business because it's another benefit that sets my business apart from all of the other content studios that are around. And it's better value for our clients because with the caliber of our video output, at the price point we offer, and the speed at which we deliver, the value is so obvious it pretty much smacks you in the face. In future videos, I'm going to be breaking down the workflow I use to overcome that editing bottleneck and eliminate your production debt. And if you want to see how I use the zero post-production system as part of Creative King's purpose-built AI-driven workflow to generate human authentic, high conversion content at scale, just check the link in the description for the Authority Engine newsletter. That's where I share all the strategies, tactics, and methods I use to build successful content campaigns that drive business growth. And exclusively for subscribers, there are worksheets, AI prompts, and inside analytics so you can see exactly what moves the needle. So sign up for the Authority Engine newsletter now. The link is in the description. That's it from me for now. Thanks for joining me for the Authority Engine. Catch you next time.